We have a lovely little line and wash today. There's all sorts of choices, but I've gone for this little castle. Now, with the line and wash, you can go as loose or as tight as you want to. So you can go really detailed, somewhere in between, or really loose, and then put the rest of it in with the pen work. I'm going to probably go halfway with it, but there's some lovely choices of different things. What I am going to do, nice and lightly, is just kind of map out where I'm going to put these bits and pieces. So I'd like to just pop where the castle is. Now you can divide your page in half if you really want to. I think it's probably much easier to do though, this one. But if you want to, yeah, that's fine. But we're just going to kind of look at all the different sections. So I'm just going to pop in where this goes, where the castle is. And nice and lightly is the key. But again, for me, I'm just going to go a bit harder and darker. But if you keep yours really nice and light, so you can kind of get it off easily, it doesn't show underneath. So just pop some of this land in. And again, you know, how much you actually put in is entirely up to you, how much detail. I'm just trying to get some of this, where this kind of, these lands, edges of the landscape come up. And the tops have got these kind of really lovely rocky bits, haven't we, that are all, suppose you could say they're covered in like grassy moss, mossy grass, one or the other, both or all. There we go. But again, you know, these don't have to be absolutely perfect. Just want to get in some shape in there. I'm just popping a few little rocks in place just so I can see what's going on, and then I can fill the tones and things in. But I didn't do much this morning because I wanted to go looser. So again, it depends how you feel. And sometimes that changes actually. So we've got this lovely shadowy area that we're coming all the way, this that's being cast on this side. You can pop that in or just not pop it in. So yeah, so I'm just getting enough in. I've got some kind of rocky areas here on the bottom of the rocks. But again, you know, you can shift things as well if you want to make less rock, more sky, more water, you know, just shift things up and down a little bit, really. So I'm just putting a few little marks in there where the green goes. All this kind of lovely. Look here, it's down. And then eventually the top of this bank peters off, doesn't it? I want to see, make this very rocky at the bottom. We've also almost got two tones to that, haven't we? Again, don't worry too much about, you know, we can pop the detail in where the shadow is at the bottom anyway, of it there. I might just try a bit of where that bottom area is. I'm not worrying too much about. I'll pop some more of the detail in. I just for my own eye really to see that it's two tone in there. So this bit at the top, so I've got a few little green areas and can try and get some of those in. As I said, I did a lot less this morning drawing on there. And we have all these lovely, big kind of, where the rock face has kind of fallen away in there, and it's all shadowy. And then we've got all this going on the water, which is like the sandy bank here, isn't it? Comes down. And then kind of a bit of a sandy bank there, and then all this lovely water in between the edge of the sea there. And then we've got, the other bank coming up behind it, look. Which again is a totally different tone again, isn't it? So the difference with actually doing a line and wash, to be fair, is that you don't actually have to commit to putting all this detail in with an actual paintbrush. You can go in and like start to create some of that texture itself with the pen, because there is quite a lot of detail in here. But yeah, you just put the pen in with it, really. And then there's the other little misty one in the background there. And then we've got the castle. So, and more or less whereabouts it is. The only thing to think about with the castle really is, what the width and height of it is. And then looking at, any angles on there. You're not sure about what angles the roof comes in. You can just kind of measure what kind of angles the roof, because obviously a lot of these are fallen down, aren't they? Or there's only parts standing and bits have come off. But generally, if you kind of look at this, all of the downwards, the sides are parallel. So we know it's fairly straight. Different parts of the building. And then we've got lovely parts of the roof. But again, part of the joy of having doing the line with the wash is that you wash, you can keep it a nice bit looser. And then the line, you can tighten everything up underneath it. So it's just quite enjoyable, kind of getting these sketchy bits in. And you can put as little, when we get to the pen in the end, put as little or as much on as you want, is the other thing. So, and you can still change things if you think, what, that needs to come out further, etc. Then just put it out further. There we go. Look at where this wall is. It's tumbling down this moss. It's lovely, isn't it? And if you're doing one of the other ones, again, there might be really minimal putting down of, that might be it, really. If you maybe put the boat down, but this you can put on over the top because it's darker. Because we're working light to dark with the watercolour and getting that in. You need to kind of get the bits that are lighter in as well to make sure that they're in. So you might be popping a little gaps for the sheep or the white horse. And then we're just going to have a little go with that. So mixing up. So the thing is with I'm going to have my tissue with me handy. I'm going to get some clean water on it now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak out and just like kind of take off the excess with it. And this is like if you're wanting, for example, clouds in, sometimes it's really faffy to paint that in. So I'm just going to kind of get a nice wash on there. And I'm going to lift the cloud out quickly while it's wet. So depending on what colour you want, you may want to choose a couple of different blues to do that. or just one blue. So you might be want it a bit darker over here and a bit more washy behind. So again, I would really advise, I'm just mixing up here. This is a bit more cerulean, which I just love cerulean. But you can go with any colour. But the key is to have plenty, isn't it? So let's see what colour that's going to. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with that as a background colour. But what I'm going to do at the last minute, I'm going to add more to it. Actually, I don't think that, it's not, that isn't just pure cerulean. Maybe I'm mixing plenty in. If you've got 2 or 3 colours that you want to blend together whilst you're working, then that would be quite important to have them all mixed up at the same time so you don't get lines between them, especially if you're in the warm, because that just will dry quicker. The warmer the room, the quicker it will dry. Right, so test that again. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to go across. I'm not actually going to put any really dark colours on here. There's a few like little cloudy bits. I might add in I might just do that. Let's see. What shall I do? Let's try different, slightly different blue. Yeah, we'll have that one. It's not quite Payne's grey, but it is quite dark. Pop that in. Test that. And then pop a tiny bit of purple in it, or a violet-y colour, rather than a warm purple. Try a bit more violet. So that's got more blue in it. Yeah, that's a bit better. I might actually just overlap some of these little bits of going cloud. So when you've got enough mixed up to cover your background, then you can go in with a nice big flat brush or a nice big round brush, whichever's going to kind of cover it really well for you. And then I'm going to work really quickly here. I'm going around the house mainly, just in case there's all the little light bits in there, but it doesn't have to be perfectly round. Oh yeah, so keep moving it. The key is keeping it moving, and that stops you getting those layers in there. Keep moving that paint around whilst it's there as well. Now you can have work with it on a little bit of a tilt if you want if you want to start top down and work it downwards. I'm just trying to keep it from having like any lines or anything on it. You can also kind of dampen your paper first if you prefer that effect. Okay, so this is where I'm going to work quite quickly. So this side, I'm going to a slightly smaller brush over. Ooh, not like that though. I've got like little marks in there now. Well, it's still quite damp as that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in some dark colours over this side because I quite like. Make it look darker over here. I'm really going to just drop one extra bit of paint in it actually, just to brighten that pigment up. Sometimes you get that slightly darker on one side. Again, I'm having to move it round. And then I'm just going to add a bit of water just to kind of smooth that in as well. There we go. Yeah, it looks a bit more like it's a bit darker on this side. And then all I'm going to do there is like start going in with and taking out any cloud area that I wanted in there. So you can kind of make different shapes with you make different shapes with your tissue, pull it out, longer ones, bigger ones. We can then just pull out some of those. You can even drag it out. So if you've got some kind of cloud that's a bit more linear, do that. You might have to change your paper a bit as well, because if it gets all blue on it, it's gonna put blue back into the white area, isn't it? So yeah, so little thin bits, little lines, whatever cloud you can see in there. There's some over here, and do the same over here. In between this dark blue, I want to take out some cloud. Just keep like getting some new paper. And where it's really light, you can just take out a little bit more of a particular area. It's quite light behind here. Key is doing it whilst it's quite damp though. We'll start to lose before long being able to take that back out. So getting there fairly quick in that bottom bit, so not painful, quite a light towards the horizon there. So there we go. And then if you have got any darker cloud, you can have a go at dropping some of that in. See how drop on the underside of your clouds. Again, you can still move it around and just kind of wriggle it around to make cloudy shapes. If you want to. And anywhere else you want to kind of drop it in. Now, if it feels a bit too harsh, again, just soften down the edges. And you can always, again, pull out just a little bit with a damp bit of tissue. Just soften it down a little tiny bit more. All sorts of things we can do. We can really play around with watercolour. You can do this with acrylic as well, just soften down the edges with your finger. And pop a little bit up here. Yeah, so we're just kind of making that sky what we want it to, really. And I'm just going to soften because I've taken this out here, so I've been left with quite a hard bit underneath it. So I'm just going to pop back some of just a little bit of that cloud that can see in there as well. There we go. That's it. Just leave it. We'll leave that for now and see how I feel about it. Doesn't have to be identical, it's just your representation. You can, as I said, you can keep taking more white out if you want, but there'll come a point where you kind of hit, you won't be able to kind of take any more out. So you'll have to kind of stop at some point, so it will dampen and kind of scrub up the paper. So I'm going to leave the castle for the time being because obviously I don't want that to bleed into the background actually because I want it to kind of pop up a little bit. So I'm going to look at all of these lovely greens and things here and try and bring those in. So when you start again, we're just looking at the tones and starting to explore those. So things like, when we start to look, we've got all these different greens. We've got this kind of like quite warm green. We'll just mix some of these up. Then over here we've got quite a yellow green, quite a bright green, and then we've got this darker green here where the shadows are. and this mossy one at the top here. So it's just exploring all those. I'm going to get kind of mix up four. So I'm looking at colours now. Try and bring my thing in now. But in fact, I'll take that off because that's going to pop otherwise. And I'll leave that palette there. Bring over the greens just so we can see. You see how untidy my paints are, just well used. So we're looking at these kinds of greens over here. Looks a bit warmer, so just got to remind myself which is which. Use it, that's my darker one. So this is the darker one. And it's on the white one. So again, just test it, see as I'm looking, and that's not the colour that I'm seeing personally, but you know, feel free to experiment because there is all sorts of colours in this rock and stuff, but I'm trying to and this here, which is much more of a mossy green. We'll use this, it's a sappy green. So we're getting more like it, and we'll start to look over here. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to add, which is sap green, water that down somewhat. I'm going to have mix in a slightly warmer tone to it. So I'm going to mix in a bit of a yellow ochre colour here. With a separate palette. Because it's a bit, that feels a bit more massive for me. And it's much more kind of bright, isn't it? Like these over here. Some of these even here to have a bit of a pinky tinge to it, where it hits the edge of the rock, but that's just me, it's what I'm seeing. So I'm going to pop a little bit of pink at the side. I can actually maybe drop in, maybe not, we'll decide when the time to start. Water this time. We've got some quite, quite biggish areas, haven't we, to do? So you need plenty. Nothing worse than mixing up the colour that you really like. And then you think, oh no, run out. So get plenty. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to get the other greens because I'd quite like to drop them around each other. So, and they might just kind of spread a little bit into each other. Yeah, so I'm exploring some of the other greens. I want to look at this one, it's much brighter. So I'm going to go in with a lemon yellow over here, which is much more acidic. Doesn't matter if you use all the space, because once you've done that, you can take it off. So I'm going really acidic with this bright yellow, and then coming in with the green in there. This brighter, and again, I'm going to go in with that green again. But that's going to give a much different tone. And of course, we can add more water, much more water to this to thin down the so it's not, so the pigment's thinner and it's lighter and more watery. If we put more pigment on, the same with the tubes, you squeeze out lots and put more pigment in, it'll be much thicker with watercolour and more dense. If we add much more water and hardly any pigment, you get more of a watery effect. It's just the only difference really. So I'm just trying this out. So I'm like, yeah, I quite like that. So I've got this one which feels warmer over here, and then this one that's quite bright over here. Still going to add I'm going to add also like a little bit of this ochre colour over here. Look how bright that is when it's very heavily pigmented until we thin it down. And drop a load of water in there. Bring it right down. So look. Yeah, because I just feel like there's some little tips of this ochre colour as I'm looking around. So I've got 3 colours there, 3 greens. I've got like sap green on its own. One that's got some ochre in it with a bit of pink nearby, and one that's got lemon yellow. It just shows how many different tones you can make. But I want a dark green now. I want a contrast because we do need a contrast with our pieces of artwork so that it will stand out. So I'm not looking, it's still a bit too. That one's a really dark one. That I bet is a aqueous green or something. So if we've got some really dark bits under, say under there, then I might pop it there, but then I need one that's a bit softer. So the way we can get that is to still use the same colour, but again, we're just putting some more water in it. I've just got to be careful it doesn't run too much into it, into the other part, but we'll see. You can see, I mean, it looks almost black, doesn't it? But actually, when we do it on here, oh, it is. It's the wrong colour. It's a good job I tested that, otherwise I'd have put it straight on. I want to go to the other side here. There we go, that's better. That was a bit dark, wasn't it, Becky? I'm loosening that off again. Then, whoops. So now, yeah, so that's the same colour look. Just not quite as intense. Right, so I'm going to try now, just put this a little to the side, start to add these greens. Now, it depends how much you want it to run. Some people love it when the colours merge. I'm just going to go for a slightly bigger, I'm going for a round brush this time so I can poke the colours around. But I'm going to go for the lightest first and the light spots on, find the really brightest, lightest ones. And get those in, because with watercolour, of course, we can't go over the top of a darker colour with a lighter one, but we can put the darker ones in over the top. So don't worry about going over the other colours. As long as the light ones are in first, that's the main thing. Yeah. So if you want, you can always cover the whole, look, you can always cover that whole area there, for example. And then when it's a bit dry, we can pop in a little bit more of a darker colour. That's fine. But you can also start dropping things in when they're wet as well. A lot of people really like to do that. So I'm going to bring this where this, I think this shadow is going to probably like to go around here. Perhaps drop these colours in. Really enjoyable actually, pulling the paint around with the tip of your. But again, working quickly enough that if I want sections where I want it to blend a bit, I can still drop them in. Going over that. Not there. Those items right here. Now, if when you're looking, you think, actually, there's some even bright ones, like light ones, and I haven't noticed, you know, what I'm going to do, well, just very quickly, I can see some light ones here. I'm just going to just take that bit out as we go in. Might be that there's just a little bit of a highlight on the top of the rock, or, you know, it's catching the light in there. Now I know that there's other darker colours underneath that, but I'm just going to get all of the light ones in here. The ones on the top there. topping looks. And then I'm going to go in over this side now and start to pop in this much warmer. This one here next to it's got much warmer kind of colours in. And I'm not worried about the edges, these two edges blending a little bit. If it runs slightly, that's fine by me. If you don't want the edges to blend a bit, then by all means let it dry a little bit more. I'm just kind of trying to represent here. These kind of rocky patches. And I'm also going to drop in. I'll wait till it dries a bit. So this is the other thing, is like deciding like the right moment to drop in the other colours. So sometimes you have to let it dry just a little bit more before you drop them in. But I want to drop in some more yellowy colours in there. And a little bit more. So I'm going to wait for that to dry a little bit, but whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to come back over this side and start to look at some of the colours I want to drop in there. So there's a bit of a yellowy colour here. I'm going to drop that in. And like that should go right yellow. Drop in these slightly bright ones. And I've done that while it's still a bit damp, so it feels a little bit more blended. Okay, so and then again, you know, it's like just deciding where you're going to put the darker shadows as well. So I'm just looking at that. I want one that's thinned out a bit more. And again, it's a bit of a gamble, isn't it? Whether or not it's going to like really run into the colours. So you can only do it sometimes by trial and error and decide, oh, it's running, I don't want it to run in as much, and just leave it that bit longer to dry around the edges. Or you're letting it run in enough that you're happy with that. Yeah, it's just trial and error at the end of the day. I'm just enjoying dropping little bits in. I'm starting to drop these shadows in. I guess we can do that over the top. And then I'll have a little look, see where I can see, where else I can see them. Might not spot them all. Definitely one down here at the bottom of there. That's darker, so I might wait till that dries a bit more to go really dark with that one. Because we do need some contrast to be able to see it. A couple of dark ones down here. Some between. And then again, just keep your eye out on where all these shadowy bits are. Again, it's like just kind of just like a jigsaw piece, isn't it? It fits together. We've not got the rocks in there yet. But if there's any other little bits of going in with this other kind of just the sap green on its own now. And I'm just going to just create just a little bit of, just very lightly, just a little bit of texture in there, just with my brush. But again, you can do that with don't need to, you can do it with your pen afterwards if you want to. Whoops, it's running there a bit. So if you're wanting to add any texture, etc., you can. So I was waiting for this bit to dry as it wasn't I, so I could put some of these yellowy bits on. But I think it might be too wet, so I'm going to have to wait for that properly to dry underneath. We'll build up the brighter kind of yellowy colour on there. And then start to think about, oh yeah, there's some green on here. I actually missed that off. This one's a bit warm, mossy as well. So all I can do really to start with is just start to drop colours in, and so that at least I've got them, so that we don't go over that, because I would have missed that then. Just have to look a little bit more carefully with watercolour that you don't miss some of the key bits. Put in there as well. Now, whilst it's wet, if you do go too far, say with a shadow or something, you might be just damp enough just to kind of take them out, because I can see there that shadow for me has gone down a bit far. So I'm just lifting it out a little bit. Lift it out with your tissue, just with some clean water and a bit of brush. There we go, that's better. I'm happy with that now. I can always pop some of that light colour back in when I've got a bit of, when it's dried a little bit as well. So let's take a pause there and see how everybody's getting on. We've just had a few minutes there, so this will have dried a little bit. Excuse me. So I'm going to just go into this bit and pop a little bit more of that brighter yellow that I was wanting to pop in, just to kind of give it a bit of a lift really as well. There we go. And then just starting to think about some of the other colours. So I think I'm going to go in with my castle now at the top here and work my way down with the rocks and things like that. So even the castle and the rocks, I'm just going to turn, get a slightly different colour here. I'll just move this blue off because I'm not wanting that now. Always just clear off little bits as you've used them if you're not going to use them anymore. These are very blue based. And then I'm just looking at all these beautiful colours in this castle. They're just gorgeous, aren't they? So, you know, I'm looking, there's kind of some stony colours, that's the lightest one. So that stony colour, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of yellow ochre. Just bring this across. Thin that right down. I'm going with a little bit of white just to give it a bit of a tint, pastel it, make it a bit more pastel-y in colour. I'm not trying to go for a really, you know, a white, which is not, you know, obviously can't really kind of do, but this gives it a little bit of stony colour. Light stone colour, so that's fine. And then the other colours I'm looking at, there's like kind of darker browns and pinks. So I'm just going to work light to dark first. And I'm not worried about this kind of running into each other too much because I want to keep the light bits light. So I'm going to get those light bits in first over the windows and around the windows. Just as a chunk. Bit there. A bit on the front there. Now I may have to come back to this and put the rest on, let it dry. Where else? On the edge, on the corner here of the building. Corner of the wall there. So you can do it all in one go actually. Use similar colours because it's obviously built out of the rock face, isn't it? So castle. So I'm going to pop in wherever I can see this lighter colour across the rocks as well. And we've got this one down here, down here, down here. And this is the working light a bit. A little bit of light in there. Not slightly darker than this colour, but we'll pop it in just in case. A little bit across the front here. When you start to look, you know, you start to see all of these different different colours. And this up here is quite thick on, so I might have to just thin that down a little bit so it dries in time. Sometimes it's a bit of a waiting game, isn't it, with them? And then I'm looking at the bottom here. We've got some lighter ones. Now I can work into those as well. So I'm going to go in all the way across here with this lighter one, where I think it might be. Pop a little bit over there on the edge of here. Because again, I can pop some of the details in with the brush work, sorry, with the pen as well. And then I'm looking over here, got some other lighter here areas here in between the white, pop those in. So I'm still looking for similar tones. We've got a few across the crags of this roof, of this, across the crags, this rocky crags up here. And we've highlighted on some of the rock faces as well, where the light bits are. If you're working in another medium, you can put the lighter ones on last over the top. Acrylics or oils. Right, so there's a few down here, lighter areas underneath there as well. There's this one here. Right, so there we go. So I think while that's drying, because it is quite wet, and I don't want that to necessarily run in with the other colours. I'm gonna have a little go at this water down here. So it's quite great. I really like that blue. So I'm gonna go for a different kind of tone blue to what I've got, and I'll probably go for that. Yeah, there we go. Now that's water moving. So again, it's just, you can just go for the colours that bring you joy actually as well. So I'm going to start by popping this in where it comes as a wash. And then I'm going to take out some of the colours. It's definitely nice to green. And work in some of those darker colours as well. But again, I'm not going to get too much pulled into detail because I want to put some of the detail in with the pen. Combination of pulling out now. I'm going to take a different paintbrush and just pulling out some of these kind of wave-like shapes. You can use a bit of a good old kitchen roll or something, or an earbud or something like that that you've got. If your brush isn't really pulling it out, try a dry one, try this one. Trying to create, not really taking that where I want to take it out. I'm liking the colour though, so when you kind of get a colour that you really like, that's great. That's better. There we go. And then go in with this kind of violet in it because I'm seeing a bit flatter, isn't it? Right, so I just need a contrast basically. So just exploring colours to use, quite like that. Let's try it. Yeah, it's definitely contrast, but it's kind of in a similar tone. So I'm just going to drop in. Now I could go in and pop that in with my pen. I might still do some, but I'm just enjoying. That's quite thin, this brush, so sometimes that gives you a thinner effect. I'm just pulling that across the edge of the water. And I'm going in underneath this rock. That's going to be much darker under there in a minute. That can do that last. That's the darkest area. Apart from this bit here at the front, because where the waves are breaking. And then just washing this down a bit so it's not quite so linear. Okay. And again, with the contrast, if you're wanting to make something much darker in there, then go back and drop in some dark ones underneath. But again, you've got to work out if the contrast is too dark for you, or if it is, you can always just go gradually darker. How you want to represent it is really important. Okay. So I'm also going to have a go at putting some of this land in the background here. You can see there, while I'm still waiting for this to dry. It's nearly dry. So I'm going in with these dark purpley tones actually. So I have got some violet in here. And I've got some brown. I'm going to go in with some really dark brown. And try this. Not quite dark enough, so I might actually mix violet with the brown to make it really dark. Oh, that's better. So that's really quite dark there. Just thin it out a bit. Give it a try. Okay. So I want the light one first, don't we? So I'm thinking about maybe then go for a slightly different purpley colour at the top. Just going to thin that down as well. So this bottom bit here, dropping in. See there? And it's very dark at the bottom. I might actually just run a bit, but that's fine. I can just take out a tiny amount of this top corner. Yeah, no, I've actually kind of done the opposite here. I've put some of this, the base in where the bottom of this wall is just it's so difficult to see where the top one comes over. And then I'm just going to pop this almost, I don't know what could you call that, pinky, reddy, green? Mossy, definitely, isn't it? And it takes some of the mossy thing that I've got in the air that I'm going to drop in a bit of pink into it. I feel like that's what I can see. Might need more pink in it. Just give a hint that there's some slightly different colour in these hills here. Right in, like in that colour. And I'll bring that right over here with a bit of green in it as well. I'm not sure whether that's going to rise. I have to be very tentative the way I apply that there. I'll just put the top in. And that's going to be, maybe drop some of that, maybe drop some green in it. We know it's not really bright green, it is quite mossy because we can see it's not near as bright as these other colours here. So I'm going to go back to the bit that's dark. I've got that's the dark bit at the bottom and then just darken that bottom. And I'm going to darken that even further after. And then we've got this misty bit behind it here. Some beautiful colours in here when you start to look. So, you know, it's just deciding what kind of colour do you want to go in with. Looks a bit misty, doesn't it? So I'm going to go in with some blues. And I'm going to use some of this purple though. This darker blue. Kind of make the tops a little bit more visible. And then I'm just going to thin it right out just with plain water at the bottom, so it does give that misty effect, so it's quite bright. Use any colours you want. Okay, so just working our way through, again, just looking at all the colours that you can see in here, and start working in, you know, some of these other, this lighter one, I want some pink colours in there, similar to what you use, so I just use a bit of pink and a bit of green actually together. Bit of mossy green, I'll show you that, that's the colour I've chosen. But you could go for a light pink if you wanted. I just quite like that. I'm just going to go in and just work into that bottom bit that I've just gone over with the light. So it's got different shades in it as well as just this light colour. So much to see. I think that's the beauty of it. It's just like, what can you see? And you know, it doesn't have to be a perfect match, just to get a gist of the fact that there's this lovely rock face. In there. And then there's these lovely purpley bits in between this light colour here. So you might want to even like dot, I don't know, dot that on or something. Just have a think about how you want to pop it on. I'm going in with these lovely purpley colours. That's the colours I've chosen. And it is just like, you know, how do you want to pop it on? I'm literally just going to do this all the way across it and then just go over the top of it with the dark one. It's difficult to know how to approach that, isn't it? So I'm just dotting it on. And then I'll put the shadow shape over the top and create that. I might even do that with the, might even just do that with the pen. Make sure I leave a few of these lighter areas though. At the moment it's lighter than I'm putting on here. There we go. And then I'm going to take in between there some of the darker areas, bring that down. That's why I'm going to go back in with this browny purple colour, which is lovely. Probably keep a little bit more pigment in it. Start to kind of drop that in. Just so a bit more depth in there. And if you want to go darker at this point, then go darker. But like I was saying before, just build it up nice and slowly so that you know you definitely want a strong contrast, because not everybody does. And I'm going in with a blue brown here to make it almost a Payne's grey, to try and create some of the deep shadows on there. But you can do that with your pen. That's the other thing. I'm going to use my pen more, I think, on my castle, but you can easily do that on here. And that's what I meant. You know, sometimes you do like nearly all the sketching on your painting with your pen. Sometimes you do more brushwork, and it's always a balance really between how you're feeling on that particular day as well. So I'm popping these, you know, just slightly darker bits, well, much darker bits, and actually the shadow here, which is creating some of the feel of the yeah, and the shadow of it, dotting them in. Bring it down here. Oh, I've got a bit more purple base than brown there this time. So I do want to create like a little bit of the edge of these where these lovely areas are here. Into those. Again, you can do that with your pen if you want. And there's nothing to say that you have to do it with a brush. I'm just building this picture up really, aren't we? So there's all, there's all this rock face and everything. You can still keep doing that. Start to build that up. Again, which colours you're going to go in with. So I'm going to try and pop in a little bit of an edge again. Here, a bit darker there. So all we can do is find what we think is the best fit and what colours we're drawn to. So it looks like you think, oh gosh, it's going to take ages, but actually once you start to look, there are patterns between these. And the ones that are just on the bottom. And then again, I'm going to leave that to dry a little bit before I start to pop the really dark ones in, because it might run like this. Okay. I've got these lovely ones on the hillside to do, same again. Just get one of these lovely textures in. It's getting a bit darker in here, to be fair. Much darker than the other those, just pop those dark ones in. Again, we can pop. Yeah, so just kind of, making it up really as we go along with our strokes and things. You can put the deliberate ones in, but also nice just to kind of merge the cones, put those dark ones over the top there. These quite dark one here. Dark ones a little bit in there. Between. Just nice being, kind of just letting your hand lead as well. It's what we'll be doing with the sketching in a moment. Right. This building up those colours, the ones that you like. Pinky ones. You know, and when it's small, you just kind of like just pop in a few colours across, really. You can kind of just pull in a little bit of colour in and out like that. Darker down that side, so I'm going to go in with that one being much darker. And I'm not going to put the windows or anything in this castle. I'm going to go in with my pen. I'm just going to get some of these tones in that I'm using. Just pull them across a bit. Right, that's as much as I'm going to do on the castle. I'm going to put it all in the pen. So just coming back now, it does look like a bit of a patchwork, but that's how I'm feeling I want to represent it tonight. I'll bring these two a bit. Yes, it's just kind of what's going on down here, isn't it? All sorts of different colours down here. Quite dark, aren't they? A little bit of green there. And just like almost rust seaweed, isn't it, coming through? So you could go in with like a burnt sienna or something, kind of a reddy brown. Not really quite rusty colour. And of course, there's going to be like the shine on the rocks and things anyway. And then we've got just a lot of these colours and coming into the bay like that. And then all of the little rocky areas. So again, I'm just kind of like wiggling this on, and I'm going to put most of it on with my pen around there, over the top. I think I'm just painting on all over me. So it'll look quite unfinished at the moment, but once you've gone on the pen over the top, it will make a difference. Yeah, so that's as much as I'm going to do. Just going to get in patches until I go in with this pen in a minute and start really to sketch it. So I'm just going to move my things out of the way, and I'm going to take a pause before we do the last bit. And the last bit's always a lot kind of faster than you think it is actually. Much faster. I'm just kind of add in the final touches. moving these bits, so we'll just take a pause there. Okay, so when we add the sketching, the what we've done the wash bit and what thinking about adding the line. So this really is very much down to your individual sketching style completely. And you sometimes won't know what that is until you actually start to do something like this. So, you'll have to work out, is it, do you do like wobbly, wiggly lines? Do you do a solid line that's very precise? Or do you kind of do some broken lines and things like that? Or do you totally go for it and I use a lot of that. Now that's probably what mine is most like. But we will all do a really, really individual kind of a sketching. And I always say, just if you're not sure about where to start, start out with just a small amount. And then if you want to add it, you can add more as you go. So as a minimum, I'd probably look for starting where you've got like some obvious shadows. For example, in the castle, we've got some obvious windows, we've got some obvious edges of the castle. Now I'm putting mine in a little bit wiggly, so it's not going to be perfectly straight. It's just the way I sketch. And there is no right or wrong way to do it, but out of the way. Every artist will do it their own way. And that's exactly how it should be. Because it's the most natural thing then. So I'm just going to go in where there's some shadows there. I am kind of following some lines that are harder, but I kind of like just sketch them out a little bit. Now the little windows, again, you might want a really solid shape. I tend to try and just get the edges, and sometimes I'll fill them in, sometimes I'll just sketch them in, depending on, you just put a little bit of infill in there, depending on what's going on. And I don't always make them straight either, it just depends. But as I said, you might want to do them really precisely, and that's absolutely fine. So I'm going into those shadows here. So I might even, on the wall, I might even just put a little bit of a kind of a sketch going through it like that, just to, show that there is actually there is some brickwork going on in there. And then, start to add to that. So you can put real minimal on there. I know mine's like slightly wider anyway than it should be, but that's not really too worried about that tonight. Just having a go at this sketching, getting all the tones in. So I'm going into the wall now, and I'm starting to put a little bit into the wall. So I might kind of start with the shadows underneath and, develop in there a little bit. This is why I was saying, actually, you don't need to put all of the shadows and things in. Now, I do, you can put as little or as much, and you might just think, I don't want to put all that in. Well, absolutely don't. Just start with a small area and pop it in. I'm just going to, what I can see in here. And I kind of like, I think what happens is we get looser as we squiggle through a little bit more, to be honest. So mine is getting a bit more squiggly here. But I do know now from doing this quite a lot that that is just my sketching style. I'm quite happy and comfortable with that now. And you learn like don't put less on, put more on, etc. All fine. There we go. So say the hills and things, I might just pop the tiniest off. And this is like what makes it into a little bit more of that line and wash. Mine becomes more of a drawing and less of the wash side of it. But again, you know, some people might want it more washy and less drawing. Absolutely go for it. This is what I said, you know, we're all so different in our individual styles. So again, I'm just kind of like, kind of see, and this is to me, this it doesn't take me long to do this bit just because I just kind of happily sketch away. When you first do it, you might be a bit more tentative because you might think, oh, well, I liked what I've got under there. And that's the other thing. If you really like the wash more than the sketch, then just do a lot less sketch. It's really that simple. It certainly doesn't need to be, you know, complicated at all. You know, it's a bit grassy, I might just not put much in there at all. Just a little bit maybe. I'm just going on the top of this kind of ravine bit here. Yeah, we can kind of create the shapes around all of these bits and pieces as well if we want. That's obviously this is quite heavy at the moment. Yeah, stitching away. Stitch, stitch. Yeah, we're just kind of just having a little play with this, getting some shape in. You can pop some more if you want near the. So yeah, so again, that's what I'm saying. Mine's quite a heavy sketch tonight over quite a lot of dramatic colours. But you know, there's no need, you know, nobody has to make it that dark. Just got to do what you want to do. Over here, I've got like a few. I'm just gonna pop, I'll just pick out a few kind of rocky areas there. Mhm. But you can pick out far less, you know, as I said, it just depends on how you're feeling. Sometimes I do like very little on them, and some other times, you know, put quite a lot of sketches. Obviously, quite a sketch night for me tonight. You know, do I want to pop some in the water? Don't really know. I'm not necessarily that bothered. If I do, it's going to be really light because I've got quite heavy everywhere else. I'll just put a really light one in there. Yeah, what else have I got in here? I don't think there's much there, just a few little squiggles on the edge. And there we go. That's it, really. That's all I'm going to pop on there. But as I said, you know, one of those things that comes with time and also can really vary. Take this little bit of tape off, can really vary from line and wash to line and wash. You know, sometimes you feel like popping a lot more on, and sometimes you feel like popping a lot less on. This is obviously, and for me tonight, a bit more than normal. So it can be just affected by how you're feeling there. There you go. Okay. Um, yeah, so that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed that and just kind of really need to do a few and just see, you know, how what that sketch feels like. And again, you know, it's our interpretation of what we can see and just kind of getting our artist mark in there, which is just really good fun. So I hope you enjoyed that one.